La pregunta es la primera. A su juicio, usted ha
Now,
dicho que la pobreza
on your
no
judgment,
solamente se
you've
mide en
said that
números,
poverty is not
sino
only about
también
numbers,
elementos
but
inmateriales.
also
¿Es más
it's an
pobre América
immaterial
Latina o menos
element.
pobre
Is Latin America
después de los gobiernos de
poorer
izquierda?
or less poor
No,
after the left-wing government?
sustantivamente
No,
es mucho más
it
rico,
is substantially wealthier,
pero
but
sigue manteniendo algunas
it
características
still
históricas
has
que no
certain
podemos
historical characteristics
superar.
that we cannot overcome
Pero
yet.
desigualdad,
Of course, inequality.
desde ese punto de vista, es
From
el
this
campeón
point
del
of view,
mundo como
Latin America is the
continente.
champion of the world as a continent.
Y a pesar de
And
lo que
regardless,
se intentó
regardless of the
las
attempts
políticas de distribución y
and the
eso,
distribution policies and so on,
hay mucha deuda social.
there's a lot of social debt in Latin America.
Pero creo que estamos también en una
But
época
we
compleja
are also facing
de
difficult
reorganización del
times,
cuento.
and this is
Y
real.
es un error
And it is a
reducir
mistake
la
to
globalización
reduce globalization
a un simple desborde de capital
to
financiero y de
a
capital
simple
transnacional
use
que lo
of
es.
financial capital and transnational capitals.
Pero hay paralelamente un
But at the
desborde
same
cultural.
time, there's an overwhelming amount of culture.
Soy bastante viejo,
My generation, I am quite old,
con una visión de izquierda muy racionalista,
with a different vision of the left wing,
y dio razón.
and now I can think about my great-grandparents, and they were right.
Reducía un poco la gran hipótesis de
I
cambio,
was
cambió las
reducing the
relaciones de
hypothesis
producción
of
y
change,
distribución.
changing the relations of power distribution in order to keep things better.
Pero un sistema
But a system
mucho más como el capitalismo,
as capitalism
agresivo,
that is so aggressive
con una formidable
with a formidable
fuerza que le permitió
force that allowed them
domesticar la ciencia y ponerla a trabajar a favor de la
to tame
tecnología,
science and to
tratar de
work
aumentar
for
la
technology in order to increase
productividad,
productivity.
como
And they were
cantidad de
able
parámetros.
to increase many parameters, but it also generated a culture.
Y si no cambia la cultura,
And if culture doesn't change, nothing changes.
y lo más difícil de cambiar
And
es una
the
cultura.
most difficult to change is a
Entonces,
culture.
los latinoamericanos
So
mejoramos
Latin Americans have improved.
bastante,
We have greatly improved.
se incorporaron masas
We incorporated a lot of very
con
poor
nivel de
people
consumo,
to a level of consumption,
pero continuamos
but
prisioneros de
we
la
are
misma
still
cultura.
prisoners of the same
¿Qué es esa
culture.
cultura? Cultura
And
no es
what is this
lo que
culture?
nos enseñan
Culture is not
en
what
la
we are
academia,
taught in
o
the
cuando
school
vamos al liceo.
or when we reach high school.
Cuando hablo de cultura, no me
When I
quiero
speak
referir
about
a la obra
culture,
de arte.
I don't want to speak about works of art. No, no, no.
Me quiero referir
Listen,
a las
I want to
reacciones
speak
subliminales
about
cuasi automáticas
subliminal, automatic
que el hombre y la
relationships
mujer común y
that
corriente
men
toman en
and
su
women
vida y en su
make every day in their life and in their house. This is a society of marketing.
y el capitalismo
And capitalism
lo que más lo cimenta
is based, its main foundation, and potentially we all want to be explosive. Explosive when it comes to consuming. Because we've killed the old religions.
aunque muchos dicen que creen en Dios,
Although some say they believe in the Christian God or in Allah, that the God of our times is the
y
market.
entonces
And so,
las masas quieren consumir
people want to consume.
y los latinoamericanos
And Latin
estamos como
Americans
mirando la vidriera.
are just taking a look at the window of the wealthier world, and we want to consume like the wealthier.
Pero no nos hemos capitalizado en
But
función de
we
ello.
have not been capitalized as they have.
Y tenemos una enorme dependencia en
And we
inversión directa
depend
extranjera que
greatly
venga y se
on
coloque,
foreign investment to be
y
placed
después
in our
nuestra economía
continent.
tiene que
And then our
remitir
economy
amortizaciones y ganancias que se van
needs
pa'
to
afuera.
continue with the income
Como
that
ese
goes
fenómeno
outside,
crece,
and how this phenomenon
cada vez
continues and
necesitamos más
growing.
inversión
And
directa
thus,
extranjera,
we
nos
need
piden
more foreign
condiciones
investment. We are requested to grant them conditions, like spiral,
del capital
conditions that we cannot grant to our local capital many times.
local. Y los latinoamericanos
And
bastante
Latin Americans
aterrizados, en lugar de tener una política
Often,
común
instead of having a common policy, We just discuss who is going to drop their trousers faster because the capital is trying to give our people works. And you can see that this is part of human history, and this has been an everlasting dispute because the force always comes to make justice. There's a king in India who fights for distribution and for the poorest ones. And there are also characters like this in the Greek history, or Jesus, or, well, there's infinite examples of this fight. With our Western worldview, we have a left-wing and right-wing view. And it's more complicated. It's like if humans have inside conservative forces as well as forces for change in an everlasting fight, and no one ever wins. No. Those of us are just building a civilization. And what's a civilization? The civilization is the greatest inheritance that we've gotten when we were born, since the person who invented fire and the wheel. And we never know who they were. We didn't pay a patent for them. To molecular biology. And this will continue. But listen, this is how things work. But we always need something behind us. And it's always relative. There's always a stake. But history is not like this. Human history is not like this. It's not ascending. I see it like this. Progressing in something, it's a constantly progress of civilization, but of course falling very often and recovering. For me, the arrival of the right wing would be almost natural. It wouldn't be a defeat. No, listen. Men play. We play. The parties play. Organizations play. They play. They play and they exist with all the evidence, and the fight of classes also exists. It's also there. All of this exists. But I want to speak about this because I don't want triumphalism when we touch the sky. Nor I want to be defeated when we fail. We need to understand that the fight is continuous, it's permanent, it's constant. And to win in life is not only reaching an objective. Winning in life is getting back up and starting back again every time you fall. This is possible for us. And I know that this point of view is against most of the common ideas. But, well, it's not my fault if I had an independent mindset. What can I do? See, this is it. But today, we need to take a responsibility. We are older now. We've been very weak from the point of view of becoming integrated. Continental integration, yes, because we do not have a critical mass. We are going one by one. Because we are not fighting to integrate intelligence, first of all. Universities, public universities, the workshop for investigation, the property of knowledge. So, we have not done this. We've tried to carry out an integration that's different. I sell you this and you sell me this, and we fight for an exchange. But if we don't incorporate intelligence to this, well, why am I speaking about integration? Because we are late. We are coming from behind. There's 200 years ahead of us. The best researchers are always going there. And if we do not have a little margin of property, knowledge, and use of the knowledge that we need, then we are nothing but dependent. Precedent. These are the pending topics. And let's say that the left wing agrees with this. This is pending. But there are projects to continue fighting against everything to keep power and to create social reforms. And I'm going to Evo. Rafael did the same thing, and I think that he made a mistake. He should continue. He should continue fighting Now Maduro tries to continue with the cultural process. He is trying to do so. And are they wrong when they're asking 20 or 30 more years for their people? Are 20 years not enough for cultural change? No, no. Cultural change takes way longer, way more than an election. Why am I saying this, brother? Because this is what's happening. It has a lot of inconveniences, not advantages. In the 1962, there were problems. And I was wearing a nylon shirt. They just came here. They were awful, awful. But the Soviets had never seen a nylon shirt, and they wanted to buy my nylon shirt. But they were prisoners of the same culture. And they were saying, okay, we're making calculations, we want to change capitalism, we need this many tons of aluminum. Following this logic, the right wing in Latin America was the only power in Latin America for a given time. And of course, they will come back. Well, they will be defeated, they will not solve the problems, and we won't either. They will make things worse in some aspects, maybe. But when we govern with this critical logic, well, hopefully we'll have a new arsenal where the new generations can incorporate. Listen, today, when we turn on the TV, we are under constant bombing, subliminal bombing, with that great power of determination, because the culture I spoke about is functional to the accumulation of capital. Capitalism needs for us to be fierce consumers, to be debtors, and to spend all our life working and paying. This is the feeling of progress that we learn. And we cannot continue trying to build socialism with capitalist workers that are willing to steal chicken, to steal any material. That's why building a culture goes in parallel as a problem. And this was the mistake of my generation. I'm just becoming part of this. I thought it was easier, but now I realize today. And what I'm saying is about the creation of the left-wing thought. And we cannot just sleep and just repeating the words of Lenin. We have a new arsenal of things that have been created. And what's happening with capitalism? Capitalism has demonstrated what they do, have shown up their guts, and they're responsible of a sinister fact. This is a culture responsible for this. We were educated under the danger of the nuclear umbrella. Now we have a different umbrella. This is the ecological disaster. And this is a consequence of the economy that we have today with capitalism. You once said that power doesn't change humans, it just reveals what we are. Are you speaking about your experience? What do you think? What's your sensation after being the president of a country? Based on the facts and the challenges. I was a leader for my country. And I did less, way less than I wanted to do, and what the country needed, because this country has 10% of poverty and 0.5% of extreme poverty, and there's no justification for this country to have poor people. There's no justification. We improved many things, but not enough. But we were not able to incorporate the sense of citizenship of the people who improved their conditions. We belong. And I'm speaking this self-critically. We are a culture, and the problem with a different culture is a pending fight. I studied philosophy, and just like you, I love this topic. The philosophy of choosing. And Pepe Mujica chooses to partake in thought and no longer in politics. How can Mujica support new project left-wing to continue? Listen, we're speaking about political action, but of course we're lacking in thought. Listen, I'm 83 years old, the youngest one, right? But you know what's happening? The best leader is not the one who does more. The best leader is the one who leaves someone that's after him and has an advantage, because there's way too much burden. The fight is everlasting. It's an eternal fight. This fight cannot end when I die. I'm nothing but a single drop of water of a huge river of the emancipation of the species that's fighting for our civilization. All revolutionary processes have problems with succession. Fidel had the revolutionary processes. Chavez, Maduro. Maduro goes for the re-election. Evo for re-election. And it seems the left wing does not have a way to solve the succession. My father did not have anyone. My father did not have a successor. I believe that this should be decided by the fight. I feel comforted by this because I know that by my side I have my people, and after I will be buried, life and the fight will continue, because there's going to be someone else. Trump is the president of the United States today, and the dilemmas are either Maduro or Trump, the left wing or Trump. So are they following your advice? Listen, the guarantees that Maduro has is the character of the opposition that also changed them, because this is what's happening. And it's evident. And that's a problem. We're stuck. And I cannot accompany this point of view of those who are defending democracy, but they're not defending an intervention. And this is a movie that we've seen so many times, so we know the results of it. The right wing has won all the elections the last 3 or 4 years with the promise of transparency, by stating, see, the problem of the left wing is that they're corrupt. And they've all been filtered. And one of the references they often use is Pepe Mujica, saying, they're all corrupt except Pepe. I love speaking about this. Who knows more about Pepe than the life of justice? Isn't there a trap behind this, a trap with Pepe Mujica? In order to kill the left wing, they use Mujica. They say, oh, listen, Pepe is the man that everyone loves, while the rest, so the ugly and the bad one, right? Yes, they say, yes, what you've done is different, but this is not enough for me. This is not good for me. I am just a piece of folklore that's around there. Are you aware of this, President? Yes, I am fully aware of this. And I am fighting. See, this is a way of building a different culture. And we're not going to build a different culture if we don't start with us, with ourselves. For me, this must be coherent. I cannot fight for equality that at the end of the day is just an old utopia of the left wing. It's just equality under the roof we live in. But in the meantime, taking advantage the inequality as a way of living. I reckon that we need to be Republicans. Being Republicans is living like most of the people live, not like the minority with the privileges live. And this is not due to hatred, but due to coherence, because our fight is for the majority of the people. Our way of living, our life should be an expression, a real expression of what we think. We cannot create or think about change if we don't start with us. But yeah, This is my way of being an old person living like this. Your fight for thought is the one. What's the next one? Well, I will continue fighting until I die. And what's going to happen with left wing Latin America? Beyond thought, what do you think? Thought? Knowledge? What do you think then? Little thought, little knowledge? I think that thought is really important. Because after that, you just go on. The greatest lie of the left wing to continue are all the failures. As being a candidate for the Uruguayan presidency, were you as lucid as you are today? Maybe, maybe not. I cannot think about this question without feeling concerned, have an extensive concern. My country is a very small one, with not that many people. I would never want it to be in the midst of a war as other countries. Because I think that fight, that confrontation, that wars in black and white is not good for people. And first, it's not good for the people, for the one you're fighting. They are the weakest. They're always the ones who wind up paying. The economic sanctions that today are fashionable with the countries. Economic sanctions are immoral against the peoples because you know who are against? The weakest. And we've seen this. We can see this with the Spain of Franco, with Mussolini, with Stalin. Always, when there are economic sanctions, the governments are not even tickled by it. They are even richer, wealthier. The ones who are screwed are the poorest people.
Ya media